new graduate here from the PN program. I'm going to speak a little bit about UWorld and my experience on taking the NCLEX and my experience after. And so I graduated on July 20th, 2023, and I took my NCLEX August 14th, 2023. So the day before the test, they tell you not to do a lot of the assessments and stuff like that, because if you get a bad score, you might up your anxiety, right? So for me anyways, UWorld was a great tool, and you guys know this. You know this stuff. So, if you've been taking your UWorld and you've been getting a lower percentage, don't freak out. Because honestly, you may not even get all the questions that you think you're going to get. See, my strength was pharmacology. I was always good with drugs. My weakness, maternity. So on the day of the test, the Pearson VUE place I took it at was a very, pleasant experience. The people there that checked you in was very lovely, bubbly, and you take your palm screen or whatever, and they tell you to take a break if you need to. And that's another thing. If you do take a break, the time does not stop, and you can take a break anytime. So you can literally do it like 5 questions. Like, I need a break, you got to raise your hand. Now, I'll speak a little bit about my experience. And when I took the test, it was literally game on at that moment. Don't go in there thinking 85 is where you have to be, because there are plenty students that passed 85. I mean, you got to go in there thinking you're going to do 145 questions. So for me, I ended up getting a whole bunch of case studies, a lot of case studies. And at that moment, I'm like, man, am I failing? And I like case studies, but it was a lot of reading. It took me 2 hours to complete. Remember, you got 5 hours to complete this. So you got plenty of time. And I'm not a good test taker. And so I'm very knowledgeable already because I took the time during school to get to know the materials. And I know some of you, I don't know if you guys ran through the courses and stuff like that, but yes, review everything. But I do believe that you can't study everything. I don't think you can really study everything that you've learned in nursing school. So the key to passing the NCLEX is the questions, the way they want you to answer. So the number one thing I did was I thought about my ABCs. They tell you don't think about your ABCs, but for me, it worked for me. And I tell you again, don't think about 85, right? So when I got to 40, I was exhausted, man. I was like, man, nothing but reading. And so what I started noticing, which I now know, is that the questions were getting harder. And I was like, man, am I failing? Because now it just didn't seem easy. And so that's a good sign, by the way. If you start to get a lot of harder questions, that means you're doing good. So when I got to 80, the pop-up comes up and say, hey, do you need a break? And I'm over here like, nope, I ain't. Matter of fact, I looked it right in the face and I'm like, man, I'm aiming for that 100. And then 100, I would probably take a break. I didn't let anxiety take over me. I was like head on. I'm like, I want this. I didn't even look if it hit 85. So I'm like, nope, I'm not taking a break. So I kept going. And then boom, it shuts off on me. I'm like, now your nerves are everywhere. You don't know what's going on. You don't know if you pass. I honestly didn't feel good, right? I didn't feel like I passed. I didn't feel I failed. And again, it was all over the place, but I literally got a lot of case studies, a lot of select all applies. And I was so nervous after the test. Like, I was sitting in the parking lot looking at people's experience and reviews and like shutting down at 85. I didn't know what to feel. And what's crazy is that 45 minutes later, my state gives me a email that issued me a license number. And I still didn't feel good. I still didn't feel right. And so I'm sitting there as a nervous wreck, right? So I don't know if I passed. And so I know that Pearson gives you 48 hours after for quick results. And everyone else is telling me I passed, but I don't feel it, you know? And I don't make the mistake I do, which you guys will probably do, is that even though the light, that's one way to check if you did pass, is depending on your state, of course. If you get a license number, you're guaranteed to pass. I still paid the $8 just to see that I passed, right? And, you know, but with UWorld, I did all the questions, all the Q banks. I got around 68% overall. On my assessments, I had around 72, 73. And so I knew that after graduation, for me anyway, I needed to just go ahead and do it, because that is the freshest time where your mind is, you just got out of school. The longer you wait and you don't do anything, in my opinion, you start to lose it. So I didn't want to make that mistake, and I know a lot of you guys are probably scared to take it. I was too, and I was like, you know what? If I fail it, you know what? It's cool. I can do it again, right? Don't even worry about it. And so I'm so glad I took that gamble. And again, it could get nerve-wracking. So my key advice, you know, when you're doing UWorld, the things that you got wrong, just mark it, and so you can later review it at least. Again, I got a few pharmacology questions. Maternity was like, you know, obviously my weakest part, and I started getting those too. And it's gonna be random. Nobody's test is the same. So I got a lot of case studies, and I've known other people that rarely even got a few, right? So don't study on one thing thinking, you know, you're just gonna, this is your only weak area. Just study every little weak area you think you're at. You're not gonna get it all right. And so, you know, read the rationales. Even the ones that you guessed and got right, you're like, why did I get it right? And all the wrongs that, you know, you have to just at least look over, at least put it on your notes or whatever. And for me, right after graduation, I had the app on my phone, so every day I did about 50 to 85 questions every single day, because I wanted to not only study the material, but to build that endurance for testing. Because again, I'm not a good test taker. And so I was like, I'm going to go in there aiming to build my endurance for this test. And, you know, thank the Lord that it was out by 85, but it was still nerve-wracking to shut you down like that. Again, you're not going to get everything right, but if you go in there strong-minded, be prepared for it, because you only got to take it once in your life. And, you know, for me, I use motivational music. There's gospel music and stuff like that got me hyped up. And if you get yourself to be scared of it, then that's what you're going to be thinking about. If you're thinking you're going to fail, there is a possibility that you will. It does not matter. Just think like you got this, because you graduated the program. So you got this. So if you have any questions, send me a DM or in the comments. And anything, all this select apply, pick what you know. That's it. Move on. If you sit there and think too long, there's a possibility that you'll get it wrong. Because the system, if you pick something more than once, it cancels itself out. And if you pick something that you didn't get right, whatever, you still get some minimal points. So, yes, good luck. Like I said, the next day I got my results, but that's because of my state, and I still ended up paying 2 days later because I just couldn't, you know, get over that I passed. But you guys got this. Don't let anything tell you that you don't. Focus on it. You've been doing it for so long, and, you know, let it be. So, good luck.